Hi everyone, today we are going to be making these beautiful, colorful rainbow flowers in Procreate. We will be using my 3D brushes and we're just gonna, learn some new techniques, use some symmetry, and have a lot of fun. So let's get started. So first let's go over specs. This is the iPad Pro 12.9 inch. The stylus I'm using is the Apple Pencil 2nd generation, which is the one that is compatible with this version of the iPad. The app I'm using is Procreate. This is the canvas size and I have it at 300 dpi. And then the brushes we'll be using are the 3D Procreate brushes, and the color palette is the Cheerful Rainbow color palette. And these things will be linked in the description. I made them and designed them, and they're a lot of fun to use. And then as far as accessories, this grip and this case will also be linked in the description. They're amazing. I love them so much. And they're from separate companies and they're both amazing. This case, I love this case. I've tried out a lot of different iPad cases, and this one is by far one of the most protective with some of the coolest features, and I have a discount code for that, so that will also be in the description below. So let's get started. So the first thing you're going to want to do is you are going to want to tap your wrench tool, and under canvas we are going to turn on our drawing guide, and we're going to tap edit drawing guide, and we're going to change this to symmetry. And right now it's vertical symmetry, so to change that we're going to go to options and change it to radial. And then down here you have the option of turning on rotational symmetry, and we're going to do that, but I'm going to show you the difference of what happens when it's turned on versus when it's turned off. So right now it's turned off, and when you draw you can see how this all matches up. It mirrors each other, right? You see how that they line up. So what we want to do is we're going to actually turn the rotational symmetry down here. We're going to turn that on, and now when I draw it looks like that, right? So it's still symmetrical, but it's a rotational symmetry we have going on. So with that, what we're going to do is we're going to select one of my 3D brushes. So the 3D brush set, when you buy it, it comes in 3 sets. We have the monoline set, so that option, and I'm going to double tap over here to get a perfect white. That set, the weight of the brush will not change with the Apple Pencil pressure. But then if you go here down to the pressure set, the weight will change based on the pressure. So if I have light pressure versus heavy pressure, so that kind of just depends. And same thing with calligraphy. This is all pressure dependent on your Apple Pencil as well. But we're going to be using my 3D pressure brushes today, and we're going to be using the dark silk brush for the first one. And I'm just going to be using the color white, because if you use black you won't see any of that depth or definition. So we're going to go for the lightest color, and then we'll change colors as we go on. So the first thing we're going to want to do is to make a petal. We're kind of going to do like a teardrop shape, and to do a teardrop you're going to start off with light pressure, go heavier at the top, and then go light again. And we're going to do it a little bit more so there's no white space in between. And I'm gonna kind of get a little bit closer so I have more control, but it's still gonna appear as that rotational symmetry all across the canvas. So I'm gonna kind of start close in here to the center, and then do a little bit like that. Okay, and you can keep redoing it. To undo, you just tap with 2 fingers one time. So I'm gonna do here and that. And I don't like that either. So we're just going to keep doing trial and error until we come up with something like we like. And I like that. That looks pretty good. Okay. And so now with that, we are going to go over here to our layer menu, and we're going to turn off drawing assist. Okay. So we tapped on our layer, and we can just select to turn that on or off. And the reason we're going to turn that off is because if I left that on and I picked one of my colors over here and I dragged and dropped that, it would change all the petals. And you can do that, you can totally do that, but I want to change each petal to be a different color, so we're just going to turn off drawing assist, and now when I color drag and drop, it'll only be one petal that changes. And so now we're going to do that with every single petal. And what you want to be aware of is when you drag and drop, there's obviously this lighter area, and then you have the shaded area, and when you drag and color fill the lighter area, that's what it'll look like. But if you drag this color to a darker area, it looks completely different. So either way is totally fine. You just decide what you like best. I tend to like to drag my color to drop it in the lightest area. So you're just going to do that with every single petal with whichever colors you like. Okay, so now we have completed coloring in all of our teardrop shapes here, and we're going to change them to make them look more like petals. So to do that, we're going to turn Drawing Assist back on, and we're going to go over here to Liquify. And the reason we turn Drawing Assist on is because now whatever we do to one petal will happen to all of them, and keep the symmetry going. You can do each of them individually if you like to make it look a little bit more organic and natural, but just to save time and make it look symmetrical for this design, we're going to do it this way. So I have the option of expand turned on, and the size is at 50%. The pressure is at max, distortion and momentum are at none. So we're going to start at the top of a petal and drag inwards with the expand option, and that'll just kind of give it more of a petal shape. And there we go, I like that. And then we're gonna go over here to pinch and zoom in, and the drawing guide is still turned on. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna tap in the very center here and just have all of those kind of merge right there at the center. And you don't have to have them touching. We're gonna add a center there anyway, just so it comes in a little bit closer right there. Okay, so to add a center, I'm gonna go up here, I'm gonna add a layer by tapping that plus sign, and I'm going to, I think I already have it selected. Let's do this kind of beigey yellow, and still with the same brush, we still have the dark silk brush selected. You're just gonna draw a circle. You could make the size really big and just do a little dot, and if you press really hard because it's pressure sensitive, that would look pretty cool. I like to have a little spiral, give it a little bit more intrigue. So what we're gonna do is I'm gonna kind of start here and draw a spiral, and then it kind of looks cute like that, I think. And just to make sure it's centered, I'm gonna tap this move tool and make sure snapping is turned on right here. And I'm just gonna make sure it's centered, and you'll know it's centered when you see those two yellow guides, and that makes you know that it's centered. So our basic flower shape is basically done. And so what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn off our drawing guide. We don't need that anymore. And then we are going to swipe to the right on our bottom layer. So now both of those layers are selected, and we are going to group them. Okay, so now they are a group, and we're gonna duplicate that group by swiping to the left. We're going to tap duplicate, and we're going to do that 3 times. And now you have 4 copies. So this bottom one, that's just our backup copy. That's going to be our original. We're not going to use it, but if we ever need to adjust anything, we have that full one right here. So I'm just going to turn that off by tapping that check mark. And then with these 3, I'm going to make each of them a little bit smaller, so that way we can fit all 3 of them in the same canvas. So I'm going to swipe to the right on all 3 of those, and that way I can move them all at the same time. So I'm going to tap that move tool, and we're going to make it be a little bit smaller, and then we'll tap the second one here, and I'm going to move that over so now I can see that. We're going to rotate it so it's not the exact same orientation as the previous one. So maybe let's do right there. That looks good. And then you can also make it a little bit smaller. Okay, and then we'll do the same one with the last one here. Same thing with the last one. So we're gonna make this one the smallest one. We don't want them all to be the same size, so it'll be a little bit smaller. We'll rotate it, let's say the opposite direction. Let's do, there's good. And let's move it right there, okay? So now we have all 3 of our flowers in a position we like, and I'm going to swipe right on all 3 of those again, and we're gonna group them together, and we're going to rename it, and we can just type flowers. That way we know what that is. Okay, so now I'm tapping on this bottom layer, and I'm going to tap the plus sign to add a layer above this layer that you can't see, right? Like you can't see that anymore. And it's beneath the grouping of flowers here. And this is where we're going to put our stems and greenery. And we'll be using this light green color right here in the bottom corner, and we'll still be using the dark silk brush. So what we're going to do is making sure we're on that layer. You can freehand this, or you can sketch it wherever you like, but you're just going to draw some stems. And so for these stems, I think I'm going to kind of have them wrapping around each other to create a little bit of flow and movement in the piece. So maybe we go this way, and because this is on a separate layer, I can move that element individually, and I could rotate it and have it maybe go right there. So I can see that little bit of green stem peeking out from the back. And then same thing over here. Let's kind of bring that one around a little bit. And then we can do over here like a little squiggly if you'd like. Okay, or we don't want it to be that harsh. We could do that. That looks good. Okay, and then what we're going to do is we are going to add a new layer on top. And the reason we're going to do that is because if I try to draw the leaves on this same layer, it's going to create a weird effect, right? So if I keep drawing on the same layer, it just is weird with these brushes and the way the settings are. So what we're going to do is I have a new layer on top, and we're going to draw leaves, and we're going to kind of do the same thing we did with the petals in a little bit of a different fashion. With the leaves, you're going to start with light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. Okay, and with those I might make them a little bit bigger so you can see the difference. So let's do 17%. So start with light pressure, heavy pressure, light pressure. Okay, and we're just going to do that wherever you want. So maybe we go over here and we add a leaf and another leaf over here. Okay, so it's still we're kind of keeping in that rotational symmetry vibe, and we're going to add another layer because I want to change the color of the leaves. So let's use this kind of bluish green, and we can do some leaves in that color. So maybe we go right there, and we could do one right there, and just keep rotating. See where you like your leaves. Maybe one that goes up that way. Okay, and then we're gonna add another layer, and let's do this middle green. So in between the light and in between that blue green, we'll do on a blank layer, we're gonna add some more leaves in a different color. So right there, and maybe we don't want it to go the same direction, so maybe we'll have it flop over a little bit so we can kind of play with that. Okay, and then with this one, maybe we have it go like that. So it's a lot of trial and error with this, and just the reason I add layers is just because, you know, in case it overlaps with a different leaf, we don't have to worry about there being a weird effect to that. So just go around, see where you want to add leaves. And that looks pretty good. I like that. And so now what we're going to do is we're going to try to eliminate where the leaves match up with the stems. So we're going to tap back here. We're going to go to Liquify, and I'm on the layer with this kind of darker green here, and we have pinch still selected, and I'm just going to tap at the bottom here, and you can kind of move as you pinch where the leaf goes. So as I move, I can move it all the way over here, but I don't want that. I'm just going to kind of pinch it so it matches up with the stem a little bit better, and you don't see it as much as you can see it right now. So, and you can also change the sizing of this. So I might move this down. I have it at like 30% now, and that way, you know, it's a little bit more precise. And you're just going to do that with every single layer. So I'm going to move down to this layer here and tap over here, tap Liquify, still pinch is selected, and we'll go in and modify where the leaves match up with the stem. What I'm going to do now is I want to group all of my leaf layers. So I'm going to just swipe right on the ones I want, and we're going to group those, and you can rename that as greenery. And then what we can do then is also group the flowers and greenery. So now we have one full group, and I can move it all as a single thing. So I want to center that. Turn on snapping for that. Make sure you have snapping turned on, and then make sure you have those two yellow guides match up. And what we could also do is, if you want to, you could make it just a little bit smaller so you have more space on the outside here. And then what we can do is underneath everything we can add, I like to add my background color on a layer of its own. You can always choose the background color from the actual background color selector, but it's a little bit easier for me. So I'm going to tap this lightest color over here at the top right corner, and we have a background color. So the last thing we're going to do is create a drop shadow, and that's one of my favorite things. Whether or not you like them, you don't have to add them, but I'm going to duplicate this entire grouping. So all of these elements are now, there's 2 groups of them, so you know they're both there. So what we're going to do is we're going to tap flatten, and so now you can see that all of those layers are one layer now. And what we're going to do is we're going to swipe to the right, and that alpha locks this layer. And if you zoom in, you can see that there is like a plaid checkered background, and that just tells you that this layer is alpha locked. Or you can also check this menu and there's a check by the alpha lock. So what that means is I'm able to color fill this entire layer as one color. So I'm going to double tap over here to get a medium gray, and we're going to tap on this to get a menu again and tap fill layer. So now you can see that all those elements are now colored gray. And what we're going to do is we're going to move this layer. We're going to tap and drag so it's above our background color but below our color layers. And we're going to turn off alpha lock. You can either turn it off by tapping that menu and turning off alpha lock, or you can swipe again to the right with 2 fingers. Okay, so with that, we are going to go over here to our menu, and we're going to tap Gaussian blur, and you're going to swipe to the right, and you can see that there's you know, some blurring, and I'm only going to blur it, let's do 7%, and you can't really see this right now, so we're going to offset it. We're going to tap the move tool, and I'm going to change it. Let's move it over just a little bit to the left. So we have that there, and to make the shadows look a little bit more natural, we're going to change the blend mode here. So you can kind of play around with it, see what you like best. I tend to like linear burn or color burn, and I think linear burn is going to give us the best looking shadow here. And then you can always lower the opacity of this so it's not so harsh of a shadow we have. So I have it at, let's do 50%. And that looks pretty good. And those are some 3D flowers that you have. Super easy, using some symmetry, some 3D brushes, and a little bit of liquifying. I hope you enjoyed this tutorial, and if you recreate this, I would love to see it. You can tag me at The Creative Bix on Instagram, and I can't wait to see what you create. Thanks for watching.